This video is sponsored by NordVPN. I need this today. Health and fitness. So if building stronger and more mobile ankles is not currently a priority of yours, then it probably should be. Your ankles are essentially the bridge between your feet, the ground, and your upper body. They provide all the information you need to balance, to produce force, to move quickly and powerfully, and at the same time, they're responsible for a whole lot of falls and accidents when they get too weak, and they can greatly limit your range of motion. If you want to improve your squat, if you want to jump higher, run faster, if you want to balance better, if you want to lunge deeper, if you want to cut and be better at sports, then training your ankles specifically is a fantastic use of your time. I'm going to show you how to do that now. And as someone who actually broke their ankle when I was a young teenager by getting it stuck in a rabbit hole, true story, I'm someone who knows the importance of training strong and mobile ankles. And in fact, some of the tips I'm going to share with you here have helped me to reduce issues with my mobility and with pain that bugged me for decades. So hopefully it can do the same for you. So the ankle joint, or the talocrural joint, is a hinge synovial joint. This means it bends like this, up and down, no other directions, and it's responsible for plantar flexion and dorsiflexion, raising your foot upwards and pushing it back downwards. Most people don't realise that other movements of the foot, such as inversion and eversion, are actually handled by other joints that are located very near to the talocrural joint, but they all work in tandem and we can collectively call them the ankles. In this case, the subtalar joint is responsible for that inversion and eversion, tilting the foot these ways, and we also have lots of joints actually within the foot that work in tandem with the ankle to bend and flex the ankle, especially when we land in rabbit holes. The job of all these joints is to provide mobility and stability at the same time. We want that mobility so that we can get down to a deep squat, so we can lunge forwards, lean over our feet, and so that our feet can move around with the ground underneath without necessarily bringing our body with them. At the same time though, we also want to be able to stabilize this joint in order to drive power strongly off of the ground. If it was wobbling around all over the place, we wouldn't be able to do that. We'd be at risk of twisting our ankle or injuring ourselves otherwise. As with many of the other joints that we've looked at in this series, the ankle joints are controlled by muscles that aren't actually located in the ankle. Rather, they're located in the calf and in the shin, and even inside the foot. In particular, the muscles responsible for inversion and eversion of the foot are the tibialis anterior and the calves, and as you can imagine, these are perfectly strong enough to prevent you from tipping over by tilting your ankle. You have more than enough strength to do that, so we're looking at building up the sensitivity in the area. That means listening to the muscle spindles, the proprioceptors in the muscles that tell us about how long the muscle is and whether or not it needs to contract again. One way we can go about training this is with something that's very popular right now on Instagram and social media. That's UST, or unstable surface training. Essentially training on a balance board like this one. However, while this can in theory improve the sensitivity in these muscles and help you to balance better, it's actually also a very controversial subject, and the reason for this is that studies don't actually support it as being effective for the general public. The reason for this being that you already have enough strength and enough sensitivity in those muscle spindles, and this isn't going to do that much to change it, or at least in theory. The problem is a lot of those studies look at wobble boards, these kind of blue wobble boards that don't provide all that much stimulation, and if we replace one of these for a slackline, the research on slacklining shows the exact opposite. This can absolutely improve your running speed, your jumping height, and greatly reduce your chances of injury. This, of course, is because slacklining is so much more difficult. It provides so much more of a stimulus for encouraging change and growth for the ankles and for the proprioceptors. The issue might not be with unstable surface training in general, but with the difficulty level of what we're used to using. And this type of training has a ton of other benefits too, from training your core to improving your body awareness. It's been shown to improve brain plasticity, so it's a fantastic tool in general. This is my first time ever trying slacklining, and it's pretty difficult, as you can tell. I would recommend getting a spotter if you're trying this for the first time. Don't be a fool like me. Pretty sure I set mine up wrong. I think I had too much slack in it for sure. Maybe it was too close to the ground, I don't know, so apologies to the slacklining community. Please don't be too mad at me. But it is a ton of fun. You can really feel it in your core, and it really ties back to what I was talking about in my Black Widow training video. You have to really relax the body. You can't tense up if you want to be successful. So definitely something I'm going to be exploring more in future. I might do a whole video on balance training in general. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see. Also guys, NordVPN, right? So NordVPN is a virtual private network that provides users with a safer way to surf the internet. Essentially, a VPN works by acting as a middleman between your data and the sites that you surf. So this means that those sites never actually get to see your personal information. That in turn makes surfing the web that much safer. Bruce Wayne wouldn't browse the web without adequate protection in place, so neither should you. But that's not all that NordVPN can do for you. Because you can route your traffic via any of NordVPN's servers located all around the world, you can also view content that's normally restricted to those regions. So if there's a show you want to stream that isn't normally available in your country, no problem. NordVPN works on tons of devices and is really easy to use. Bioneer viewers can get access to an exclusive deal by going to nordvpn.com/thebioneer. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee as well, so it's completely risk-free. A huge thank you to NordVPN once again for sponsoring this video and helping me make more of the content that I love. And the other way you do this, which any long-time viewers are already going to know what I'm going to say, is by using barefoot shoes. And my sock is cold and wet. Basically, barefoot shoes allow your foot to move the way it's supposed to when it hits the ground so that it can actually flex and bend with the contours of the floor. At the same time, that provides you with all that extra proprioception, which lets your ankle adjust and your legs adjust to prevent yourself from falling over and injuring yourself. Your foot actually has all these reflexes built into it, like the plantar reflex. When you stimulate the sole of the foot, this should cause flexion in the big toe. Things like this allow your foot to naturally get into the strongest position around the ground so that you can push off of it, and this helps the ankle immensely. If you're wearing big, thick soles on your shoes, this deadens all of that input and completely renders those joints and muscles useless, thereby massively increasing your chances of injury. And this has practical benefits. Studies show that habitual barefoot running can actually improve your sprint times when under normal circumstances. Okay, so now to stability of the ankle. How do we make the ankle stronger so that we can push off a bit more powerfully, jump higher, and run faster even more so? Well, something I want to look at here is actually called ankle stiffness. This is tendon hysteresis. You want to look at how much energy we can transfer through the Achilles tendon without letting our foot bend. When you think about a sprinter, they're essentially keeping their foot moving in a very narrow range of motion. This is almost a static contraction in the calf, and this is what's going to allow you to transfer energy to the ground. And a great way you can do this is with skipping. Better yet, single leg skipping. Here I'm returning the energy to the ground using my ankle. Another way to strengthen that tendon is with a deep deficit calf raise by getting that stretch on the tendon going through the full range of motion. As for strengthening the tibialis anterior, you've got the knees over toes guys tibialis raises, which I've talked about in the past, so I won't go into in great detail here. You can just walk around on your heels with your toes lifted up in dorsiflexion. This is a great way to train incidentally. And hill sprints are fantastic because you need to pull the foot up further because you're running up an incline, and this can also reduce the amount of impact. Also involved in moving the ankle powerfully are the muscles that control the toes. For example, you have the flexor digitorum longus, which connects the 4 smaller toes to the tibialis posterior. This is also actually responsible for rotating the foot outwards. And you have the flexor hallucis longus, which connects the big toe to the gastrocnemius. And this, of course, helps you to push off the ground as well. The flexor digitorum longus is actually also responsible for maintaining the arch of the foot, which is very important for getting that tripod foot during a correct squatting movement. So these muscles are extremely important when it comes to pushing off the ground, stabilizing the foot and the ankle. But again, with thick soles on, we just can't make the most of them. Studies show that you can train these muscles with bands and things, and they're responsive to training, and that this can increase jump height and other factors. I do actually have an exercise that I enjoy using for strengthening the toes specifically though, and it's one that I'm pretty sure I invented. I've not seen anyone else use anything like it. I call it the resisted forwards toe lean. And all you're going to do here is lean forwards like Michael Jackson as far as you can. This only works in barefoot or barefoot minimal shoes. Lean forwards as far as you can, and then you dig your toes into the ground and use that to right yourself again. You can actually feel this work pretty quickly. As for mobility, a lot of people are actually lacking in dorsiflexion, and this is one of the biggest issues you're likely to see with ankles, and this can greatly reduce mobility when it comes to getting into a deep squat, and also for running and generally performing optimally. It can also lead to injuries very commonly. So if you struggle to get right down into a deep resting squat because you feel like you're going to fall backwards, the limiting factor here is most likely dorsiflexion. The issue might well be tight calves. Essentially, this means that you can't get your center of gravity forwards enough, which means you're now going to rock backwards. Either that or you're going to need to bend your spine round to compensate, which is going to create an issue. You also likely see this a lot if you struggle with the pistol squat. If you keep rolling backwards when you try and do a pistol squat, that's very likely due to issues with your ankle mobility. One solution that I've not really seen people talk about is to be more actively engaging the tibialis anterior whilst you're in this position, so pulling yourself forwards. That makes it a more active mobility challenge rather than a passive stretch, and it improves the mind-muscle connection. You can just rock in position like this, not using your weight, but by actively dorsiflexing. And at the same time, by just using your weight and momentum, it's a great way to gently improve that mobility. This is where a goblet squat also comes in handy. By holding a weight like this, not only do you provide yourself with that counterbalance, but at the same time, you weight yourself forwards, making this a light-weighted stretch that will improve that ankle mobility very gently. And there is another way you can test whether or not you have enough range of motion using a tape measure, which I'll show you in a second. And okay, fine, I'll take off my top just for this last bit. So what you want to do is find yourself a wall, should have a few of those knocking around, and a tape measure. Open out to 5 inches, place it in front of the wall, and place your toes so they're 5 inches away from the wall. Now what you're going to do is, keeping your heel on that foot flat on the floor, bend your knee forwards and see if you can touch the wall. And if you can, then your ankle mobility is adequate for most of the things you're likely to want to do. If you can't, then you've got a little bit of a room for improvement. And like I say, you can do this with a bunch of different calf stretches. That could include things like the elephant walk, like downward dog, or alternatively, that deep deficit calf raise that we were just talking about. Oh, and of course, another one is that ATG split squat, which again is a knees over toes guy staple. If your calves don't seem particularly tight, but you still struggle to get into that position, the issue here might be a physical blockage preventing your foot from moving upwards. And you'll know this because it will feel like a blockage. It might even hurt a little bit. But the good news is that this can be fixed as well with banded joint distractions. So what we're going to do here is wrap a band around the foot. Let's get the shoe off again. Between where the bridge of the foot meets the bottom of the shin, which is called the talus, and we're going to try and pull it back and down. And this is basically going to pull the fibia back into alignment so that we can bend our foot upwards again. At your pocket band, find an anchor point. That could be a table leg, a heavy table leg. I'm actually going to use a kettlebell here, which is fine because I just need to use my other foot to keep that in place. And I'm also going to use my other foot to pin the band downwards to keep that angle how I want it. So I've put my foot on the kettlebell and see it's across where the bridge of the foot meets the tibia and the fibia, pulling down on that talus bone. Now I'm just going to bend nice and forwards. As you're doing this, you should immediately find that you can lean your foot forwards more than you could before. Hold this position for 5 to 10 seconds, repeat 15 times, and you should find that you immediately following this have a deeper squat and feel less discomfort when you get into that position. This helped me immediately to increase my range of motion and to ease off some of the ankle pain that I've experienced in the past. Hopefully it could do the same for some of you. Two great sources for more on those specific joint distractions are Squat University and Athlean-X. Check them out if you want more advice like that. So thanks so much for watching this one, guys. I hope you found it useful and interesting. If you did, then please consider a like and sharing it around. That would help me out immensely. Subscribe if you want to see more like this. Hit the bell button for notifications. And if you like this kind of training that improves your general performance, working on not only strength and balance, but also mobility, explosiveness, even brain function, then you might enjoy my new ebook and training program, Super Functional Training 2.0, the Protein Performance System. You'll find a link to that down in the description down below. It's over 2 hours of video content showing you how to perform all of the movements, plus an in-depth 80+ page ebook, and of course a complete workout designed to build all those things all at once. Yeah, if you found this useful, then you should get a ton of benefit from that training program. Either way, thank you so much for watching. And bye for now.